Welcome back, today I am reacting to sad news from Ludwig. I don't know what happened here, so let's just say this. Quite interested in the guy, because he had actually quite a hard time with his overlord, Hassan. Because at the end of the day he gets pretty much kicked around like a freaking ball, so... the poor guy, basically. Basically the poor guy. I mean, he still has a lot of money, I guess, so he's not poor in this sense, but definitively in a way of that he actually get treated like a punching bag. So it is what it is, I guess. I mean, let's just see what he has to say about it and what the sad news is, because I really hope that he's... Nonetheless, even if I personally don't like someone, I really don't want them to suffer, as long as they don't do anything horrendous. So let's just start. Oh, wrong button.
Years ago, I made a video on this channel called My Plan to Quit Streaming. And in that video, I talked about how I started a company called Off-Brand with the idea of making events for not just myself, but other creators. And that company is mostly made up of former Beyond the Summit employees. Unfortunately, yesterday we had to announce that we are closing down the production side of Off-Brand. We really...
Oh! Well, you tried something and failed. It is what it is. That's fine. Happens to everyone.
Released a statement that I'm going to read verbatim because it's pretty well written. When we started Off-Brand, our plan was to help creators bring their ideas to life. For many creators, we did that, and we're proud of everything we helped create. Our people worked hard, and we made amazing content, but we failed to make the events business sustainable. And as a result, we made the difficult decision to shut down that side of the business. Off-Brand Games isn't going anywhere, and I'm going to keep making events through Mogul Moves. But we want to thank everyone who supported and watched the events we helped produce. If you're looking for talented folks in production, please check out. We have a sheet that has a lot of the people listed. I've already had a lot of people personally reach out interested. So if you're hiring, reach out fast. I would love if you did that. Now, this video is absolutely not to garner sympathy in any way, shape.
Mate, oh, for fuck's sake. Ludwig, you already started to garner sympathy. Your start was... You know it, I know it, and probably most of the people that hear you right now know that you actually wanted to garner sympathy. Just don't do this bollocks, for F's sake. That's why I disliked Ludwig. He's freaking... Already, from the start, the first thing is already so effing hypocritical that I just... Oh, okay. Okay.
Shape or form, but it is more so to answer questions about how we got to this point, and then some just general like misinformation I've seen to respond all of it in a one-stop shop, as opposed...
If you didn't want any sympathy, you would start with that.
To talking about it on stream every day. Now, the first thing I see a lot of people talk about is somehow connecting this to the structure of the company and it being a co-op. The most annoying people in the world are going to blame this on Ludwig turning Off-Brand into a workers' co-op. I've seen a lot more people worried about these type of people than those type of people actually existing. But I mean, simply put, this is almost completely irrelevant to the structure of the business. The structure...
I mean, if I remember correctly, you're the founder of this entire shebang. So at the end, if people blame you, well, maybe it wasn't your fault per se, but you had the responsibility. So no matter what happens, you carry the blame.
Structure of the business, in fact, is also still in place, right? Off-Brand Games is still a co-op, and it would only ever change if all the employees wanted to change that. But the real issue was the business model. Now, the business model wasn't working, wasn't making money. And the main difference, if you have like a traditional S corporation as opposed to a worker co-op, is it's easier to get outside investment. But I don't...
Ah, okay. That's a mistake. You really should work to a point where you can self-finance everything, not by getting money from others, from other people. That's risky, always risky. I mean, it works in a lot of cases or in some cases, but I wouldn't risk it.
I don't think outside investment would help a failing business model. And we know that because it happens all the time. Like esports, they have a bunch of outside investment, but when that VC money dries up, it shows that the underlying business model isn't working and they have to change their business model.
Correct.
We did that without the outside investment. And of course, outside investment can help, like with an initial runway, because most businesses don't make money in the first year. But instead of finding that money from the outside, I personally invested. I used my own money. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
See, that's something that I actually kind of respect about him. If he actually invested in his money, he said, okay, I'm gonna try it, and it failed. And as it is, yeah, unlucky. You made mistakes. But it's fine. It's fine. I cannot hate this guy for actually trying. That's way more than most people will do, and most people just sit there and cry about their situation. He actually wanted to do something, so hey.
The next thing I see being asked a lot, God, that sucks, but they got to do what they got to do. They put on amazing stuff. I wonder what German's going to be up to. A lot of people are curious what German's going to be up to. And German's talked a bit about this on his stream, but about 6 months ago, I think, maybe a little more, German stepped back from off-brand productions to just deal with some stuff in his personal life. He was an irreplaceable part of off-brand. Like, he adds a creativity that I think is one-on-one. I don't think I've ever seen it in another human. You don't get Doug Shovelthon without the mind of Jeremy. You don't get like Unpaid Intern without the mind of Jeremy. He's a super talented guy. But as far as like, does this mean he's a full-time streamer or whatever? That is for Jeremy to speak to. But it shouldn't functionally change how his life was operating in the coming 6 months based off like the past 6 months when he initially stepped back to like have some more time for himself. Hope that makes sense. Next thing I'm seeing a bit of, is this because the YouTube contract is over? Kind of the same answer as the worker co-op versus the S Corp. The YouTube contract allowed me to have a lot more money to like invest in places, right? And invested in various things, whatever. So I don't have a big sum of money to, keep it rolling for a year, 2 years, whatever. But even if I did, whenever that money runs out, again, underlying business model was not making money. So let's talk about why it wasn't making money. Now, a lot of people are
now we're in the interesting part, because as he said it, or the concept of his business was actually quite interesting. It should have done some kind of money to a certain degree, at least. Maybe not billions and billions, but at least enough to stay over the flow and stay in the green with a good amount.
Like hypothesizing that it's because events don't make money. But that's not actually true.
What? Events make a lot of money. It depends on how you plan and how much you invest.
True, right? They don't necessarily sometimes make money for me as the creator directly. If I spend like, I guess a good example, $1.5 million on chess boxing, but I only personally make $1.25 million back, you might think of that as a $250,000 loss for me. And like, oh, why is Ludwig running events? That's bad for him. But you can, or at least I can, maybe safely assume that, hey, I might make $250,000 of extra value as a creator because I have grown as a result of doing this event.
Yeah,
right?
that's correct. Yeah,
yes. Eyeballs.
He's correct.
And over the course of the next 5 years, that $250,000 will come back through like the extra growth that created. So I don't mind that loss. And the production company doesn't have that loss. Right? They are a production company that itemizes the amount of costs that they had to bear, including employee time, and then covers that cost sometimes with like, an additional like service fee. So they are not losing money. In fact, those are the best months is when there are huge events like Streamer Awards or a HS Boxing. The issue isn't the events, it is the time between events. So if we had a Streamer Games, a Streamer Awards, a Sea Dog charity auction every single month, or even 2 a month, that's what the team is capable of handling and would also need to handle to be able to sustain itself. So the issue was less that events don't make money, but more so that the appetite from creators for events of that scale at the cadence it would need to be would not allow people to be employed full time. It only really makes sense for like contract work. And you can kind of see that the appetite isn't there if you just look at the biggest streamers in the world over the past year on Twitch.
I mean, he's correct about that, but at the end of the time, if your thing needs contract, work, then do that. I mean, it's always better to have people on a regular basis that you know what they can do. But if it doesn't work for your plan, it doesn't work. It's that simple, but it's a bit hard because I understand him. I also made some missed investments and planned wrongly. So I understand where he's coming from. But still, then you just have to change your mindset and change the way you run things before you actually go out of order. So I don't understand why he gave up per se.
This is like the top 15 creators on Twitch. And you can see here, nobody except for Kai on this list is doing big events. You know, I guess Tarek is doing Ludwig Tarek 3 and a few other things to his credit. And, you know, Hassan did that show with Twitch. But for the most part, most of these people are just in their bedroom every day. And their costs are like what it costs to keep the lights on and have internet running through their computer. That's about it.
Yeah.
There are very few creators who are interested in, you know, spending $250,000, $500,000 to do some random cool shit that at least, you know, some big event or whatever. They'd rather do it from home. And who can blame them? I think they're doing that because that's a reflection of what the audience wants as well.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at the best streamed event nominees for 2024, it's a lot different than it was a few years ago. You know, it doesn't mean it's worse. It's just different. Like the road trip to TwitchCon, that was a fucking banger stream. But the reality is NMP set up all the tech for that. And it's like feeling like you are a part of this road trip with these people with maximum chat interaction, as opposed to something like Streamer Games, which is like, you know, kind of like a fun knockoff Olympics with a bunch of creators, but you don't get that interaction that I think a lot of people vie for when they're watching streams.
Yes, but yes. Okay, that's one of the problems. I mean, I really feel bad for him because losing something like that, but also I think what I hear is basically right now that he misjudged the entire thing. And he didn't plan accordingly to the thing that he was, well, doing. It's okay.
And so I think there's like a general shift that creators are doing that is a reflection of their audience's appetite. Now, we were able to make a lot of cool shit happen in the 2 years that we existed, starting from Mogul Money Live, which is kind of like the first event that then started the snowball of off-brand. And we did Juice, Chess Boxing, Germa's Christmas Special, like 3 Ludwig Tareks, Pog Champs. But you'll notice a lot of these are just my events. That's just the fact. A lot of them are my events. And I, unfortunately, although I wish I could be, am not a big enough creator to be able to sustain all of those full-time employees. I'm just not. I tried, man. I tried to do every big event I possibly could, and every cool thing. I worked as hard as I ever have this past year. But like maybe only Kai is big enough to be able to do that, and has the appetite to also do that. And we didn't have enough outside streamers to be able to fill all those gaps between the large events that we did do. Right? I hope that makes sense. That's the general issue. Now, again, off-brand games isn't going anywhere.
Okay, good. But still, it just sounds the same. You misjudged the costs. And as I said, I understand that you want to keep your workers and keep them in a, well, regulated, always the same workers kind of thing, so they work for you. It's just not realistic at some point. It's just... okay.
Okay, off-brand games is going amazing, honestly. Like Rivals of Ether 2 has been a blast to publish and promote and like play. Although at times it's been sad because I dropped down to silver. But I enjoyed it a lot. And that part of the business, we are going to keep going. All right, we have a lot of people still on that team. It's just the production side which is changing. So for me personally, It's going to be switching to more contract work and also switching, I think, the style of events that I do. For example, I did 2 events in the past month. One is World's Greatest Gamer, where I got all the greatest gamers in the world.
So all of this, just to say I did a mistake by actually employing people. This is too costly for me. So I'm gonna do contract work. He fizzled and ran round about... Just say it, dude. Honestly.
Flew them out. They drove out 20 people, put them up in hotels. It was a 2-day event, streamed it, and Void eventually won. It was sick. That peaked at about 30,000 viewers. It was a lot of fun to do. The other event I did was League Week. It was in this exact room. We had a pretty cool set. Me and Connor played League for 100 hours straight. I won as many games as I lost, and we peaked at like 38,000 viewers on just my stream. I think 50 across both streams, which is crazy, right? It's crazy because the cost of League Week is 20 times lower, but I think reflects what audiences want, which is like maximum engagement with their streamer. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing events because I still really like doing things like streamer games. You know, for me, that's like fucking winter vacation when you're in school. It's like that's the shit that I do look forward to doing. So still want to do things like streamer games. We'll still try to do that next year. And other events have already switched to being done by contractors. If you have a keen eye, you might have noticed the most recent Ludwig wasn't produced by Off-Brand. Neither was the LACS Rivals event. That was also not produced by Off-Brand. There were some Off-Brand employees working on it, but those events are still going to happen. This doesn't mean that like no, I'm not doing any more Smash events or any more. That's not at all what this means. And at some point, I might talk a little bit more about how this happened so suddenly, but it's because the cost mounted quite quickly. All right, simply put. It got to a basically unsustainable point. And I've seen some people give shit for like the timing of this, right? Like before the holidays, whatever, which is fair criticism.
Hey, before you actually lose even more, sometimes you have to drop it.
We are doing like a good severance package. We are paying people out for the next 2 months. But the reality is if we were to have kept this business going until March, I would not only have enough money, I would not only not have enough money to keep Off-Brand going, but I'd also have to shut down Mogul Moves at that point. It was beginning to impact both businesses with just the burden of costs of the production side, if that makes sense. So it's something we had to act quickly on. And if we were to delay breaking the news to the employees, you know, maybe you could announce this after the holiday break and sit on it, then they would just have less time to find work. So obviously the timing is...
That's fair. That's fair. He's correct about this. Just give them the heads up as soon as you can. That's fine. This is the point that I like.
Not ideal, but we did it and we acted the moment we found out the information that, hey, by March, if we don't do something, everything is going to shit. Okay, so it was really an act now or act never situation. But anyway, that's it. Again, I'm a link.
It is what it is, guys. It is acolytes. It is what it is. I mean, I feel with him that something could just not happen. I do. But the way he talks about it is just a bit freaking... I hate it. Okay, it is what it is. And as it is, acolytes, good night.